Well, so I had to go back to this big old clunky thing, only because our headlight switches on this, turn signals, now that we're going to run them, and don't really care much for the horn thing because we're not going to use that, but it was really tight, but I got it figured out. I just had to move this clutch perch that way a little further, and got the map switch situated in between the two. Hopefully it doesn't pitch my clutch lever at a weird angle when I pull it in. Yeah, see, it's still affecting that. It's trying to avoid having to modify anything. Let's see if that'll work. Because remember, in the last segment, the lever was hitting the back of that turn signal housing. Yeah, it was no bueno. So the further down you go on the bar, it's going to be fine. However, the further you go, the more it's going to pitch your clutch lever up like that, and it'll give you kind of a weird clutch feel, or clutch lever feel. But I think I'm like right on the border of it feeling good and not good. It actually feels fine. It's not pulling up too much to where it feels awkward. So I think I'm going to live with that. I am, however, going to redo my Teflon tape, but you guys have already seen that, so I'll do that off camera. Alright, so before I tie up those wires for the ECU, I'm going to pop this back fender back on. Real simple. Goes under, so you have the fasteners here going straight back, then you have two fasteners coming up from the bottom, and they're wood screws. Actually no, I'm sorry, they are going down through the top, through these guys, and also these guys go down through the top. So I had that wrong, sorry, let me back up. So they go here, these are like wood screws, but they're going into plastic, and then these two guys on the bottom, these will feed up from the bottom into these brass threads here, these guys, and then these two will go down through the top of the fender into the back. So it's quite a different design from 2022, or a different departure, I guess you could say. And just snaps in. Just like that. Make sure your lines are good on both sides, nice and tidy. And I have a bag of screws, these guys here. Now some of these guys are going to go into that rear fender extension, this guy here. So just kind of be mindful of what you're doing, and you don't want to put screws in too soon, obviously, because everything kind of sandwiches together. But we're going to leave this guy loose because we have to run our wires through here, and then it also goes through the top of the fender, or top of the back fender, up in here. This gives you a little better view how everything kind of goes together, just how we took it apart, and you can see how it all fits together nicely. And that's a lot tidier of a situation than what it came with that big old Christmas tree on there, some guys call it. So basically the only ones we're gonna do right now are these guys, and actually these flange tank, number plate, rear fender. Yeah, so you got to make sure when you're going into a big hole like that that should tell you that it should be a flange bolt instead of this. It'll be like these guys here. See how they have a step and a flange on them? So that should be your key. That those go in there if you weren't paying attention when you took it apart. If it doesn't feel right, it probably isn't. That applies to many things. Get these guys started by hand. Again, I really don't recommend using an impact for this stuff, especially because they're brass threads, or they appear to be brass threads. And if you're in doubt, like I showed in a previous segment, just back it up until you hear that, and then go forward. It's a very prominent sound, and that'll guarantee you every single time that it is in fact threaded correctly. You don't want to screw up those threads, because then you'll be buying a new fender. And just by your wrist, you want to feel them just snug. Just check them. You don't want this stuff coming apart. Okay, so now it's almost looking like a real dirt bike again, which makes me happy. So now we got to figure out where we're going to put our rear turn signals. Actually, there's a bit of a departure on this application. So I keep thinking I bought turn signals for the rear, when in fact I bought a rear taillight to replace the stock one that actually has turn signals built into it. This is from True North Motos in Washington State, and it's really trick. I think less is more. In this case, dirt bikes, we're trying to achieve a bit of weight loss here, and this uses your stock hardware. Stickers off to the side. So this comes pretty straightforward. Now these guys are really tiny little fasteners here, and you don't want to lose these guys because they are a pain to find, so I'm told. So there's that. Yeah, so I chose this because it's a lot easier, much simpler than having to add 2 turn signals and then having to link up your brake light, which your brake light should already be connected. So I'm excited to try this out. This is kind of a neat little idea, or a neat product idea. If I can get these little tie guys off here. There we go. So these will be mounted again through this. You can see the turn signals are the yellow ones. Pretty cool. Again, real simple. Just gonna lay this guy where it's gonna go. Kind of do a test fit. Of course, it's upside down. I'm not sure if that's top or bottom. Okay, so maybe, oh, I see. So these guys have these really cool machined these machine washers, or standoffs, I guess you could call them. And so these will go in there like that, which is kind of odd, but I guess that's just the way it goes. I was thinking it wouldn't fit without these little standoffs, so there was something clearly amiss there. So now, I wonder, yeah, this is clearly on, the point goes to the top, looks like. As you can see, it kind of looks like you could go both ways, but I do not think that is the case, because the back of the fender kind of hides underneath there, which is a pretty cool little look. Oops, sorry. Just like that. Okay. That's a tiny little Allen too. Yeah, it seems like every time I get a bike and do all this stuff, they've come up with something even cooler. Every single, I guess every 5 or 7 years or so, they come up with something even cleaner looking, which is really cool. And this stuff's it's actually really affordable. So that is, I believe, how that goes. And then we'll flip it over to expose the back side. And we'll put our washers and nylock nuts on there, which are going to be really tiny. They look like 5mm. They might even be standard for all I know. There we go. So I just got to tighten those guys up. I'll pop this wire through here. A lot less fuss. And then we'll mount our taillight, or I'm sorry, our license plate holder to this. Usually you have to drill a couple of holes, because I believe there's a 3-bolt pattern, which we will get to. But let me first tighten these guys up. I'll be right back. Looks like I gotta change a battery. Alright, so new battery. Put these screws on just because it's easier than doing it upside down. These are 6mm. I'll keep this clamshell together. And I'm just doing this with a nut driver. You don't want to over tighten these. And, yeah, I just realized something. Gosh, these guys slip together, so I'm gonna loosen these guys. Sorry for all the back and forths, guys. I'm just like you. I'm learning. So let's see if I can get these guys to just be loose and go through there. However, I need to figure out a way to fish that wire through the right side here. Okay. So back to where we started. Fender on first. Let's see where these guys end up. Plug in the bottom. Now we got these two guys, which will connect to these two. Hopefully you can see this guy and this guy will get these two guys. And I want to make sure that we're all good in here. Yeah, so it's pretty straightforward. You just got to figure out your way. So we're gonna tuck this guy in there and under there, and pull our wire through. just like that. You don't want to careful. You don't want to pinch the wires, so you want to make sure you got the slack out of it. There's nothing hanging out. Oh wait, yeah, so I need to pull that wire out more. Sorry, it's hard to film, but I'm just tucking the wire back under those little capture tabs and tuck it in there. So what we're gonna do now, whoa, oh man, cramp. See if I can get this screw started here, just to hold it in place. So yeah, I just put the center one in right here just to hold this guy in place. And I want to make sure I've got the wire here in the right spot. We'll pop these guys out. And we'll connect them. And you can't get these screwed up. They only fit in one side or the other. Well done, KTM. Not that you're listening, but well done anyway. Well, I thought you were going to go in there. There we go. Okay, and now they're going to go click. So I thought. There we go. Well, okay. There we go. So I guess it's up to you to decide how you want to run your wires, but I say just go with what looks and feels right, a lot like that. And we'll put a zip tie on it to make sure it's going to stay where it's at. There we go. All right, nice and tidy. Put our fasteners back in. So now we're going to get our other guys, which will be going up. These guys are the vertical ones. Especially vertical mounted bolts, you want to make sure that they are tight, because they will fall out, and you want to check them after your first ride. Okay, and got some more here. The wood screws. One. Go. Now I think there's two more that go in straight from the back. Okay, now we have rear fender, license plate mount. I'm just going to go there. And we got to finish up our front taillight mount. But we are getting there. I'm happy. On goes our frame guard. Remember, it goes in. It slips in to the bottom of the number plate from the front, and there we go. I think that went in. I guess I didn't get the whole thing in. There we go. Yeah, you gotta be careful on that back part. It didn't go in very easily. So, okay, so my frame guard. Frame guard just gets one bolt. All right. And it's a zip tie. on the master cylinder. A regular zip tie will work. There we go. There we go. All right, on to the next thing. I gotta tidy up them wires with some zip ties here, so let me get positioned to do that. So I've got 2 zip ties here, just kind of keeping that wire concealed and against the main harness as much as possible. So now we got to install the front turn signals.